Hello Mixtresses and Mixters, this is Mixtress Ray and you're watching Mixtress Video. I'm doing another, I'm going through all of mine, just kind of giving you guys a tour slash review of all of my tarot decks in reverse order from when I got them. And I'm doing a direct comparison, a total walkthrough of the entire deck of each deck alongside the Smith-Waite Centennial Edition. Because for me, that helps me decide if I want to get a deck, because I want to see the comparison between the deck that I and most people know the best, that most decks are sort of based on symbolism-wise. So this one is, I'm obviously very late to the party on this one. This deck has been out since 2010, I think, and it was really popular for a while. At this point, what I'm showing you here is what you get as of early 2019 when I record this, what you get if you order from Amazon the Shadowscapes Tarot book and deck set. So it comes in this, I don't have the whole, sorry, it's not all in the shot, and I'm not, but it's fine. I mean, you can see many, many, many reviews on this particular deck, but it comes in this box with a little magnetic closure. And then it has a full book inside with this cool nice little purple pull ribbon. Oop, knocked over my rocks. I mean, trying to put rocks on your keyboard is not really the best idea. But anyway, it's a gorgeous little box. It was only $20 for this whole set. So this is a very reasonably priced tarot deck and book set. If you find yourself drawn to it, go for it. And it's just trying to get it in there, but I'm going to hit the tripod if I... Anyway, each card has a full, like, black and white of the card on one side of the page, and then talks about it inside. Every single one, even every minor suit card, has got a full page on the left. This is Ace of Cups. It's a great little paperback book. I love it when you get like a full guidebook. And then the cards themselves. Just this beautiful kind of periwinkle purple box. Really great. I really think that's an awesome value for 20 bucks. And this is another deck like the last one when I talked about the Marigold Tarot. This is another deck that is going to be difficult to show you because of, I might just do like a little bit, we might just like zoom in as much as we possibly can here. Yeah, I'm sticking with this whole having rocks here thing, okay? Deal with it. And of course, you can look up many, many, many reviews on this particular deck. I'm just gonna zoom in as much as we can because this is a deck that is difficult to take in without buying and really getting up in those cards. The good thing about this deck though is it has an app. So I ended up, it's like $3.99 for the app, and it has full, like, you can zoom in and everything, full color editions of the cards, so you can really take a look at each card really up close before you decide to buy the actual deck. And I mean, after that $4 app and then paying $20 for this set, you know, still I got a full guidebook, the deck, and an app that goes along with it for less than 25 bucks. So I see no problem in that. Anyway, you can see many, many, many reviews on this deck, of course, online. So I'm not going to spend as much time looking at doing close-ups and stuff of the cards as I did with the Marigold Tarot. Interesting though, this particular deck I got in the mail the day before I got the Marigold Tarot, and I feel like I have almost the same amount of love for this deck as I have with the Marigold Tarot, but it's a completely different vibe. This deck is so, there's like fairies and mermaids and angels, and the energy in this deck is very, I interpret it as lighthearted, not too confrontational, safe, comfortable. And I say these, I mean, some people have a little bit of like disdain when they say that, but it's the perfect time, perfect segue to talk about the Emperor. Like, I will probably mention in every single one of these videos that I kind of have a problem with the Emperor because I have a problem with men as authority figures, which is pretty understandable in our awful patriarchal society. So this card, I do not like looking at this guy. This guy, ugh. But one of the reasons why I got this Shadowscapes deck is because there are a lot of men in these cards, and most of the time I gravitate towards tarot decks that do not have, either don't at all have men in them, or yeah, I mean, basically I gravitate towards decks without men in them. But this particular way that men are portrayed in this deck is going to kind of help me confront that, just that, you know, confront my problems with men in general. I think this deck is going to help me work through that. I really do like this Hierophant card. And as, like, let's just go ahead and do, I mean, I'll do probably a few cards like this, but you really can spend a lot of time just really, really getting lost in everything going on. Because I think these were all done as, I mean, I don't know what the original size of the paintings were, but they were probably, you know, at least 2 or 3 times bigger than this. Probably a lot bigger than this. The only complaint that I really have with this deck is there's only one card in the whole deck where it looks like it might be a person of color. Most of the time the characters look like maybe Asian, which is great. I guess that's a person of color, but just as far as like there being variation in the skin tones, they're really all, for the most part, pale. But I don't really see a problem with, personally, having a gentler deck like this. I mean, it's not like this deck doesn't have things to say. This deck has a shit ton of stuff to say. And just because it's nice doesn't mean it's not worthy. Even if this is someone's only tarot deck. You know, if it gets them into tarot and helps them work through stuff, if they need to work through things really slowly and gently, I mean, you don't have to have a confrontational deck like the Marigold Tarot. I personally like having both. You know, sometimes I really want to be confronted and sometimes I don't. This is another, I also have a problem with angel imagery, but this deck portrays a lot of people that might be considered to be angels, but without the sort of heavy religiosity that's usually attached to angels. So I think this deck is going to help me work through my problems with men and my problems with angels, you know? I consider this deck, as far as like, sometimes I like to think about decks as like what kind of guides I'm working with in this particular deck. And in this deck, I think it's all about the mythological realm, the fairy realm. This deck is working with fairies and mermaids and just sort of the, yeah, I don't know, the mythological realm is what this deck is really, and it feels almost nostalgic to me, even though it came out in 2010. This looks like the type of deck that if it had been around when I was in high school, I would have bought it. In high school, it would have been, it reminds me a lot of different friends that I had in high school, and I was really into fairies back then. Fairies and vampires pretty much equally. I love this devil card. See, it's not like this entire deck is super lighthearted. I mean, this is a dark card, like it's supposed to be. Oh, I just love that. There are some, the skies in the Shadowscapes Tarot, the lines that you can see like in the sky, kind of reminds me of the Thoth, which is not really a tarot deck that I like very much, but just that line work is one of the things that I really enjoy about the art on the Thoth Tarot. That this particular deck also utilizes. Definitely get the app if you're kind of wishing that I would do a close-up of each one of these cards. This this video would be like 3 hours long if I did that, which I wouldn't mind doing, but my particular internet cannot handle that kind of thing. So I like this moon depiction. I personally, I don't see the moon card the way that like you're supposed to see the moon card. I refuse to think of the moon as, I don't know, the way that you're supposed to think of it as sort of like a deceptive card, sort of lying to yourself kind of card. I really can't see it that way because the moon is an energy that's always felt like salvation to me. Like the second it gets dark, like I could be having like the worst day ever, and as soon as it gets dark, I'm like immediately energized. And you know, the moon is not a bad thing to me. Okay, here we come to, this is one of my, I said this on the Marigold Tarot too, but this is one of my very favorite world cards. This is kind of the reason I got the deck. A really good friend of mine, old friend, Christine, I sent her a picture of the star card from the Smith-Waite deck, and because she was going through a hard time, and I sent it to her kind of as a message of healing, and I told her that it reminded me of her, and then she sent me back a picture. She, like, next to her hospital bed, she had a deck of tarot cards. I didn't even know if she liked tarot cards. And she sent me this card and said this one reminded her of me. So I hadn't actually, like, I'd seen the Shadowscapes Tarot, and it just didn't really call to me that much because I was not seeing all the detail in the images. I was just seeing them kind of from far away. And whenever she sent me the picture of that card, I bought the app, and then I had an opportunity to really get into the cards. And that's when I knew I had to buy it. See, this is the one I was talking about before. This is like the only figure in this entire tarot that's like darker skinned. So I wish there was more variation in skin tone in this deck. But that's okay. I can wish a lot of things. I can make my own deck for that, right? But this one, obviously, since I got it 2 days ago, I have had the app for a couple of weeks, though, so I have spent some time with these cards. But I know that I am going to get along really well with these cards. I'm going to take these cards out when I'm having one of, you know, a PTSD type day, and I need to have a conversation with myself about something, but it's got to be chill and not too confrontational. Oh, I didn't talk about the quality of the cardstock or anything like that. It's Llewellyn is the publisher. I've heard people complain about the quality of the cardstock. I mean, it's pretty thin. It's a little shinier than I would like. But it's really not bad. I think it's going to hold up. And I have not trimmed or edged any of my cards yet. but I might edge this deck because I have two decks that are edged, that came edged in gold. And this deck, being that it has this sort of like silver border, I'm not going to trim it because I like the silver border. So I might edge it in silver, or like what I'd really like to find is kind of a metallic-y periwinkle purple. I think that would look really gorgeous with this deck. This one's nice. The Ten of Wands. She's holding up all of this shit, but she looks calm about it, but it's also kind of a mask. It's like, no, it's all right, I got this. When, you know, you really don't got it, but you got it. But, you know, ask for help, you know what I'm saying? Ask for help, dude. Gorgeous Page of Wands. Oh my god. The energy in these cards is just so, there's so much motion. Like these figures are not static, you know? There's so much like water and air energy, movement. I don't think, like when I say this deck is non-confrontational and kind of gentle, and a lot of people do say that, I don't mean that you don't go anywhere with it, because the energy is moving. It's just going to take you along that gentle breeze. See, I mean, this is definitely one that I can work with, like having trouble with male imagery. I mean, this to me is a butch dude, and that is something that's difficult for me. And the fact that you can see his ass it's triggering for me. But I also think he's beautiful, and I think he's going to help me. Oops. I was like, what's wrong? I was picking up the wrong side of the card. Oh, I did not realize this until just now. These are both women. Oh, that makes me so much happier. I don't know how I didn't notice that. See, like I really have spent some time really looking at trying to understand the detail in all of these cards, and I haven't noticed that until now. It makes me incredibly happy. Love this Three of Cups. Oh my god, the mermaids. Cups is usually a difficult, like emotions are kind of hard for me. I'm very much a swords air person. But again, this deck is going to help me deal with emotions. It's going to help me deal with men, angels. Like this deck is going to be very useful for me. So don't let someone tell you that it's too gentle and it's too fluffy, because sometimes you need that. My god. And so accessible. $20, deck and book set. I mean, not like it needs to be promoted. This is obviously a mainstream deck. You could probably get it at any tarot shop. Definitely if you can, buy it at a tarot shop instead of on Amazon. Even if you have to pay a little more for it. You know, support your local witchy shops. I should have done that, but my closest one, which I'm sure they have this deck, because they have so many decks, the closest one is about an hour and a half away. So I did buy it on Amazon because I didn't want to wait, and it would have cost, I mean, it would have cost more there, not only just outright, but also, you know, the gas to get there and all that stuff. I'm not totally in love with this Ten of Cups, because I don't see it as being, you know, love between two people, you know? I want to see a whole family here. I mean, I guess you're seeing all these fish, but I'd like to see more than just two people. Oh, this Page of Cups. This Page of Cups is another one of the cards that made me really want this deck. I pulled this card on the app one day, and I had a really transformative day because of this card. So she is always going to have, oh, I'd love to have, I wonder if you can get like prints or poster size versions of this deck, because some of these I would love to, you know, just really, you could really revel in the detail of these cards if you could have them bigger. I almost want them to like put out like a different edition of this deck that's like maybe that's bigger, that's maybe more like this type of cardstock, which is a little bit more matte and thicker. Each suit has their own kind of color scheme. The blue, or the cups are blue, the wands are orange, the swords are purple, and the pentacles are greens, which is really kind of great. They're subtle variations of color. I'm usually more of a reddish purple person, like bluish purples don't usually do it for me, but in this deck, I'm totally feeling it. Totally feeling it. Oh, look at that, 3 swords. Very powerful. It's just so inspiring. I get why I used to, like, when I first started getting back into tarot again about a month ago, I was like, I'm not going to be one of those people that has like hundreds of decks. I'm not going to do it. But I get it now because it's art, you know? There are 78 individual paintings right here, and that is so powerful. This one was another one that I pulled in the app one day, and it really helped me work through something that I've needed to work through a long time. So it's like I'm eternally bonded to this card. This is another one that I had the same problem in the Marigold Tarot. I'm not quite sure, like this card doesn't say nightmares to me at all. I mean, maybe if you think about these, maybe like a tunnel is opening up from the heavens and these birds are coming down to attack. I mean, I guess that's what is sort of happening there. Which, yeah, okay. So this is the next frame. When they have attacked. Okay. Alright, I just talked myself through that. Look at this Page of Swords. Oh, it's a different way to look at the Page of Swords, I think, because this sort of shows her as a nurturer. She's got this little baby duckling. I'm so into these cards. And it just goes to show, like, I had seen people, like, review these cards several times, and it's just hard to see in a video all the detail, and it just wasn't speaking to me. And then all of a sudden it was. All of a sudden I was unlocked to this deck's imagery, and now I'm completely in. there's just so much to unpack in every single card of this deck. Here's a good one, King of Swords. This is, you know, usually I have a problem with the King of Swords, but this one, the only thing I would change about it is I wish his hair wasn't light. I feel like if his hair was darker, it would make more sense to me. The fact that there's an owl balancing on his sword. He's definitely, you know, a butch dude. But look at all that stuff that's happening in his wings. Oh, that is a great card. Pentacles in this deck I haven't connected with as much. Although I really do like this card. I see this as me and my Michael. I don't know, it's just my first thought when I looked at it was, this is us. We don't have a little baby lizard, but we do now have 2 cats and 2 dogs. Well, one of the cats is a stray, and she's kind of on a trial period right now. If she doesn't get along with our Goddess of Destruction collie, our black cat, then she won't get to stay. But hopefully it'll all work out, because it's gonna break my heart to take her to the Humane Society. I will do it if I have to, but this is a really great 5 of Pentacles. I mean, can you imagine? I just kind of want to create my own tarot deck. I kind of want to just like completely get lost. This one bothers me. This is one of the only cards that bothers me. Because to me, this just looks too phallic. I don't want to see the 6 of Pentacles as a phallic, like, ejaculation of coins. Like, that's not for me. But that's alright, you know, they can't all be perfect. Oh, I love this one. I love all the nudity. I love that there's no male nudity except toplessness. Well, I mean, there's no female nudity either except toplessness, but I like that that's equal. You know, they're not, I don't know, the fact that that's equal, that like every time you see a topless chick, you're going to see a topless dude as well. Like, it's not biased. This is interesting because the Wild Unknown 8 of Pentacles is also a spider. I wonder if Kim Krans was inspired by this card. This is the cover image of the book, the guidebook. I like the font. It's a little small, but the font is pretty. This is like the only card that in the deck that includes male imagery that is going to be harder for me to be okay with. I don't know why. Probably because he's looking straight at me. But I mean, that makes sense for the King of Pentacles to be looking straight at you. He is the man who has everything. Anyway, if you have been at all considering buying this deck, if it draws you in at all, do it. It's different. Like, I know it's like, you know, really popular, so to say it's different, but it just brings a completely different energy for me personally of any other deck that I have, and that's important, I think. So let's see, what else should I say? I'll just do a little, I'll talk to you guys for a second about, I forgot to like promote things or anything like that. First, let's pull a card. Let's pull a card. These shuffle very well, being that they're like thinner cardstock. They shuffle really well. Definitely think I'm going to edge these. I'm not very good at, like, you know, I don't have that practiced movement down that everybody else does. All right, I'm not gonna shuffle too much. We're just gonna pull a card and then we're gonna talk for a second. This one wants to come out right here. Oh God, of course. Okay, we're gonna pull two cards because I don't just want to look at the Emperor. I'm not that great yet. Emperor and the Chariot. Okay. Two cards that I wouldn't necessarily put in my favorites pile from this deck, but alright, that's fine. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of an update since I've talked to you guys last, which it's been a while. I don't think I've put out a video in like 6 months or more. Definitely 6 months or more. So just wanted to babble a little bit about what's going on with my other creative endeavors in case you're interested. I do still have a radio show called Mixtress Radio that airs every Friday night, 7 to 10 Central Standard Time. And you'll find the link for that in the description of the video. I also have a Patreon, and I have just recently added a new feature, a new reward for my patrons. So basically, if you donate at any level, even just $1 a month, you will get every weekend, you'll get a podcast episode that is the edited together talking segments from Mixtress Radio. Because Mixtress Radio broadcast is one of those, it's internet radio. You have to tune in at the right time and place. But if you're one of my patrons, you'll be able to listen to all the talking segments from my radio show, minus the music, because for copyright reasons, I can't have the music in there. But you'll be able to at least listen to the talking segments anytime you want. So that link is also in the description. But it is patreon.com/mixtressray. Thank you to all my current patrons and anyone that's watching this at all. Thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. And then the other thing, I also have a podcast called What's This Bitch Talking About, which is a Buffy recap podcast where I recap every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer exactly 20 years after its original air date. Yes, I have many interests. I've got a radio show, I've got a YouTube channel that's mostly ASMR, or I like to call it ASMR adjacent, because it's not, you know, kind of over-the-top ASMR, which I love over-the-top ASMR, by the way, but mine is not really that, as you'll know. So my podcast, like I said, it's every episode of Buffy I talk about one at a time, 20 years after their original air dates. So you can find that pretty much anywhere you find podcasts under What's This Bitch Talking About. Yeah, so that's pretty much all my creative endeavors. I also have a blog, so the link to that is in the description notes as well. And since I'm getting into tarot right now, I'm also offering some just like little mini tarot readings. And because I am the mixtress, alongside your tarot readings, you will also get some songs. So not only will I pull cards, but I will pull songs to go with your cards. So, and especially when I'm done with my series of showing you guys the tour of all of my different decks, you will also have the opportunity to pick which deck that you know I have that you would like me to pull cards from. So whichever deck speaks to you the most, and I would love to do readings for you guys. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and rest of your week, rest of your month, all of those things. Bye. Thanks for watching.